Seeing how aggressive Sharon Hart was, Karen gritted her teeth and glanced down at the beautiful diamond bracelet on her wrist. Lucas had given it to her a while ago, but Karen had just tossed it in a drawer without a second thought. It was only after Bryce gave her another one last night that she compared the two. She realized the one from Lucas had a higher clarity and was much better quality. Today was the first time she'd ever worn it, but she never expected something like this to happen. Karen took off the bracelet and, after one last longing look, reluctantly handed it to Sharon. "Since you like it so much, I'll give it to you as compensation." Sharon's eyes lit up. She snatched the bracelet and immediately fastened it around her own wrist. After admiring it for a moment, she remembered to control her expression and said with a pout, "It's not that I'm asking for a handout. This is just you paying me back for the bracelet you broke. Understand?" Lucas frowned. Karen didn't know much about jewelry, but since he'd bought it himself at an auction, Lucas knew exactly what it was worth. The bracelet was top-tier quality and had sold for a final price of over $1.5 million. He couldn't help but wonder what had happened between Karen and Sharon to make Karen give up something so expensive. Seeing that Sharon had accepted the bracelet, Karen forced a smile. "Yes, of course. Well, you have the bracelet now, so can we please just go?" Sharon sneered. "You wish! I just said this bracelet covers mine. We still have to settle the score for the slaps from you and that little witch next to you. How about this? You two slapped me 5 times. I won't go overboard. 10 slaps should do it. Let me slap you 10 times and I'll let you walk." Karen's face twisted with indecision, and the color drained from Charlotte's. 10 slaps? My face would be completely bruised. Karen didn't hesitate for long before pulling Charlotte to her side. "Charlotte, you're the one who slapped her. Just let her hit you back. 10 slaps will be over before you know it." Charlotte stared at her mother in disbelief, her eyes wide. "Mom, what are you saying?" Thinking about how Sharon had already called for backup, Karen frantically pushed Charlotte forward. "Just let her slap you 10 times and this will all be over. This is your fault anyway. Why did you have to hit her? Now hurry up and take it. I'll get you a warm compress for your face when we get home. I promise it won't even leave a mark." Karen said it as if she was being generous, as if she had thought of everything. However, Charlotte was so furious she was on the verge of tears. "Mom, are you really pushing me to get slapped by someone? I only slapped her to help you. How can you blame me for this?" "Did I ask you to help me?" Karen shot back righteously, shoving Charlotte toward Sharon again, terrified that Sharon's friends would show up any second. The crowd of onlookers couldn't help but start murmuring among themselves. "Oh my God, is that her real mom? She gets into a fight, her daughter comes to help, and now she's pushing her own kid forward to get slapped. Wow, I can't believe her. Most moms would protect their daughter if someone threatened to slap them 10 times. Or at least they'd take some of the heat. Who just throws their kid under the bus like that? That's so messed up. If she thinks 10 slaps are no big deal, why doesn't she take them for her daughter? It's not like the other lady said it had to be the daughter." "Exactly. That's just cold. If I were her daughter, I'd be out of there." The crowd's chatter was loud enough for both Charlotte and Karen to hear. Sadness washed over Charlotte, but Karen just acted like she didn't hear a thing. Sharon touched the bracelet on her wrist and threatened them. "Looks like you're not going to do it. When my husband gets here and sees how you two ganged up on me, it's going to be a lot worse than just 10 slaps." Hearing that, Karen panicked and shoved Charlotte forward. "What are you waiting for? Just let her slap you so we can get out of here." Charlotte couldn't hold it in anymore. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at her mother, her eyes filled with disappointment and pain. She clenched her jaw and looked up at Sharon. "Fine, go ahead and slap me. But let me tell you something, you're not as powerful as you think. You're just riding on the Wilsons' coattails. Let's see how high and mighty you act when your family comes crashing down." "You witch! How dare you curse my family? I'm going to beat you." Furious, Sharon raised her hand to smack Charlotte hard across the face. A slap like that would definitely leave a mark on her pretty face. Charlotte squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the hit. At this point, getting slapped didn't even seem like a big deal anymore. What her mother, Karen, had just done felt like a knife twisting in her heart, leaving her devastated and completely let down. Just as Sharon's hand was about to connect with Charlotte's cheek, another hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. Lucas glared coldly at Sharon. "You already got the bracelet. Don't push it. Who do you think you are, trying to slap my sister-in-law?" Charlotte's eyes flew open. She stared in shock at the person standing in front of her. This was the second time Lucas had stepped in to save her from Sharon's slap. Including the incident at the Lux, Lucas had now saved her 3 times. When he called her his sister-in-law, she was so touched she started to tear up. Her own mother had thrown her under the bus, basically forcing someone to slap her. But Lucas had stepped in, defending her from that harsh slap. "My wrist! Let go of my wrist!" Sharon yelled. Lucas was gripping Sharon's wrist so tightly she couldn't move it at all. She cursed. "You loser! If you don't let go, I'll have my husband break your hand." Lucas roared back. "You have a filthy mouth, and you need to be taught a lesson." The sharp sound of a slap echoed through the air, and Sharon stumbled back, her tirade cut short by a stunned silence. The slap was so hard, it snapped Sharon's head to the side. Her face, already puffy, swelled with a bright red mark, and she touched her lip, feeling the sting of a fresh cut. Gasps rippled through the crowd. No one expected Lucas to actually hit her, let alone that hard. But nobody said a word against him, not for hitting a woman or for the force he used. They'd all seen how Sharon had been acting and figured she had it coming. Cussing someone out is one thing, but bringing their parents into it? Who could just stand there and take that? "What are you doing? Who told you to hit her?" Karen lunged at Lucas, smacking him hard across the face. "You loser! Do you have any idea who she is?" she screeched. "I worked so hard to get her to let this go, and you just had to slap her again. You're trying to make things worse for us, aren't you? You're nothing but trouble." Then Karen scrambled over to Sharon, practically bowing as she apologized. "Oh, ma'am, we are so sorry. We never meant to offend you. This worthless guy just has a death wish. You can do whatever you want with him later. Just please don't blame us. We don't even know him. We have nothing to do with him." Sharon wiped a smear of blood from her lip with the back of her hand. "Idiot!" she screamed, her voice dripping with contempt. "Do I look like a 3-year-old to you? You think I'm going to believe you're not with him? Don't worry. None of you are getting away with this. I won't let a single one of you off the hook. You just wait. You're all dead." Clutching her stinging cheek, Sharon shrieked with rage. Karen, both furious and terrified, turned all her frustration on Lucas. She leaped at him, her hands slapping and pinching.
This is all your fault, you good-for-nothing. Your fault. Do you have some kind of grudge against us? Did you come here just to ruin our lives? Get over there and apologize to her. Get on your knees and beg for her forgiveness if you have to. Do you hear me?
Enough! Charlotte couldn't take it anymore and yanked Karen's hand off Lucas's arm.
Mom, you're always like this. You only pick on people you think are weak, and you cower in front of anyone with power. We're the ones getting bullied, but you just want us to back down and let them hit me. What was wrong with Lucas standing up for me? Why are you trying to force him to get on his knees and apologize? If you're so capable, why are you always making your own family take the fall?
Her eyes red with anger, Charlotte stared daggers at Karen. She was completely done.
You ungrateful brat!
Karen was furious, about to lash back at Charlotte, when a menacing voice cut through the air. Who had the nerve to slap my wife? The voice came from a middle-aged man in glasses who was walking toward them with more than 10 big, muscular guys in tow. The moment the crowd saw them, they scattered, backing far away to avoid getting caught up in the trouble. Karen was so scared she started to tremble, her legs threatening to give out. It was a disaster. That woman's husband was here, and he'd brought a whole crew with him. They were dead meat. Her mind raced, wondering what to do.
Honey, you're finally here,
Sharon wailed, leaping into James Wilson's arms.
I was being bullied to death,
she sobbed, acting like she was the one who'd been wronged. James took one look at his wife's red, swollen face and her disheveled state and flew into a rage. This cousin's just a slap. It was a direct insult to him and his entire family. Okay, don't cry, James said, his face dark with fury. Just tell me who had the nerve to slap you, James Wilson's wife. I swear, I'll make them pay for this. Sharon lifted her head, about to point to the 3 people standing in front of her. But before she could, Karen jumped in.
Mr. Wilson, I know who slapped your wife.
Ignoring everyone's shocked faces, she pointed a finger straight at Lucas.
It was him. He's the one who hit your wife. He even made her bleed. The man's a monster.
Charlotte was shocked, but even Sharon was completely stunned. For a moment, she couldn't even process what had just happened. Lucas scoffed internally. If Karen wasn't Cheyenne's mother, he would have stopped putting up with her a long time ago. The onlookers watching from a distance couldn't believe how shameless Karen was. Karen was the one who started the whole thing, but she let her own daughter take the fall. Now she was blaming her son-in-law to save her own skin. What a piece of work. James followed her pointing finger, and his eyes landed on Lucas. He recognized him instantly. You! He exclaimed, shocked. Back at the kindergarten, Lucas had kicked him, and his goons had all ended up in the hospital after Jordan was done with them. He'd been holding a grudge against Lucas ever since. Then, at Brilliance Corporation, James had tried to use Dominic Carter to crush Lucas and force him to his knees to apologize. But it backfired. In the end, he was humiliated by Flynn Davis from Orion Global and got thrown out. He hadn't even had a chance to settle the score with Lucas. And now this guy had slapped his wife and was taunting him again. On top of their old grudge, now there was this. James glared at Lucas, pure hatred in his eyes. He wished he could just have someone take him down right then and there. Seeing James's attention completely fixed on Lucas, Karen realized this was her chance to slip away. She quickly pulled Charlotte aside and,
"Let's get out of here while everyone's focused on that loser."
Charlotte yanked her arm away from Karen, looking at her with total disappointment.
"Mom, how could you do that? He's your son-in-law. He's my brother-in-law." "So what?" Karen shot back, reaching for Charlotte's hand again. "He got himself into this mess. He can get himself out. If we don't go now, we'll be stuck here too." "I'm not leaving," Charlotte said, dodging her mother's hand. "If you want to go, go by yourself." She then walked over to stand next to Lucas. She didn't say another word, but her actions spoke volumes. She was staying to face whatever was coming, right alongside Lucas. "You foolish girl, you'll be the death of me," Karen hissed, furious at Charlotte's defiance. "Fine. If you won't leave, I'll go by myself." And just like that, Karen actually took off, running away all by herself. The crowd watching from a distance couldn't stand it. "Did you see that? The woman just ditched her own daughter and son-in-law to save her own skin. I've never seen anything like it." Goes to show you there are all kinds of people in the world. You really do see something new every day. I can't believe someone like that actually exists. She's the one who started this whole mess, and she's the first one to bail? That's just unbelievable. Wilson didn't even glance at Karen. His eyes were glued to Lucas. He pointed the thumb at the dozen or so muscular guys standing behind him and let out an arrogant, "Funny running into you here. Today, we're settling all our scores. But don't you worry," he sneered. "I'm not going to kill you." "What do you want then?" Lucas asked, not looking scared at all. In fact, he actually seemed kind of interested. Wilson glanced from Lucas to Charlotte, who was standing right next to him. He licked his lips and said shamelessly, "Either the girl next to you keeps me company for the day, and I'll let you walk, or I'll make sure you're carried out of here. Your choice." Wilson's eyes were all over Charlotte. He thought she was a total knockout. He'd been thinking about her ever since they ran into each other at the kindergarten. He never thought today would be the perfect chance to finally get what he wanted. Charlotte looked at him with pure disgust. The way Wilson was staring at her made her skin crawl. She couldn't help but grab onto Lucas's shirt and hide behind him. When Lucas heard Wilson's offer, he just chuckled. "So, you're giving me two options?" he asked. "That's right. I'm James Wilson, a respected guy around Orange County. I can't be too cheap about it," Wilson said with a laugh, acting like he was being generous. His goons even started praising him for being so generous by giving Lucas a choice. Lucas said with a cool smile, "Too bad. I'm not interested in either of those." Wilson's face turned ugly. "Listen, you little punk. Don't push it," he yelled. "The only reason you got the best of me at the kindergarten was because of that tough guy you had with you. But you're all alone now, and I've got more than 10 guys here. Let's see how tough you are now." As Wilson finished talking, his 10 or so goons moved in closer. Lucas didn't seem to care one bit. He said calmly, "When it comes to being arrogant, you've got me beat. So how about I give you two options too? 1, take your guys and get lost. I'll act like this never happened. 2, I'll beat you guys up so bad you'll need someone to carry you away. Your choice." "Kid, you've got some nerve. You're the first person who's ever dared to talk to me like that," Wilson roared with laughter. "Oh, really?" Lucas said, his words clearly getting under Wilson's skin. "You said something like that last time too, but your guys ended up in the hospital. I wonder if they're out yet." Wilson was furious.
The last time they met, his goons hadn't even managed to lay a finger on Lucas before Jordan showed up and put them all in the hospital. After that, Wilson had to shell out a ton of money for their hospital bills. It was a huge embarrassment for him, and now Lucas was rubbing it in his face. Wilson felt like Lucas had completely humiliated him.
Damn it! You've got a death wish, I'll grant it, Wilson roared. Get him, and don't hold back.
The 10 or so big guys behind him immediately swarmed around Lucas. When the crowd saw a huge fight was about to go down, they screamed. Some even called the cops, while others pulled out their phones to record it. Charlotte's heart started pounding when she saw how aggressive they were.
What should I do? Lucas is all by himself. Can he really take on that many guys? If Lucas loses, they'll make him pay, and I won't be able to get away either. What am I going to do?
Just as Charlotte was breaking out in a cold sweat, terrified, a warm, dry hand grabbed her own clammy one. Charlotte looked up and saw Lucas was still completely calm, like he didn't take these guys seriously at all. Charlotte's racing heart immediately slowed down and her fear started to fade. Lucas took Charlotte's hand and rushed toward the 10 or so burly men in front of him. James originally thought Lucas would be scared out of his mind, but to his surprise, Lucas still looked completely unfazed. He immediately got furious because it looked like Lucas wasn't threatened by them at all.
Beat him up, James shouted. When we get back, every one of you gets a bonus.
The men's eyes immediately lit up. James was the general manager of the Titanium Corporation, which belonged to his family, and he was loaded. Any bonus he gave out was at least 5 figures. The big guys were already pissed off by Lucas's calm attitude, and now, with a huge bonus on the line, they lunged at him, ready to tear him apart. Charlotte screamed, her face turning pale with fear. Just as the first guy's fist was about to connect with Lucas, Lucas lifted his leg, twisted sideways, and threw a perfect flying kick right at him. The big guy went flying back with a loud thud. He cried out in pain as his body shot back like a cannonball, crashing into the 10 or so other guys behind him and sending them flying too. In less than 1 second, all the big guys were rolling on the ground, groaning in pain. The whole scene made everyone's jaws drop. It was like something straight out of a cartoon. No one could pull that off in real life. It was an instant takedown, a complete wipeout. He took out more than 10 guys at once. Will was in total disbelief, his eyes practically popping out of his head. He remembered getting hit with a flying kick from Lucas back at the kindergarten. He'd been thrown several feet, but when he got up, he didn't feel any pain. But this kick from Lucas today? It had left all his men completely incapacitated. The sheer force of the blow was terrifying. Will's heart pounded with terror. He suddenly realized Lucas must have gone easy on him back at the kindergarten. Otherwise, there was no way he'd still be standing here in one piece. If Lucas had wanted to, he could have killed him. The thought made Will break out in a cold sweat. He completely forgot about getting revenge or saving face. Beside Will, his wife, Sharon Hart, watched in disbelief, horror plastered all over her red, swollen face. Lucas pulled Charlotte along and walked straight up to Will. "Did you say you wanted my sister-in-law to keep you company?" he asked. Lucas asked the question in a flat voice, his face unreadable. But when Wilson heard it, he was scared out of his mind. He shook his head frantically, almost like a bobblehead, and quickly denied it.
No, I wouldn't dare. I was just kidding.
He cleared his throat.
Just kidding. I definitely wouldn't dare.
Oh, really? A minute ago, you said you wanted to break my arm and leg, didn't you? Lucas asked as he glanced at Wilson. Wilson broke out in a cold sweat and wished he could just smack himself.
I was just running my mouth. Don't take it seriously.
Seeing how terrified Wilson was, Charlotte was both surprised and relieved. She stole a glance at Lucas and looked down at her hand, which he was still holding. Her heart swelled with happiness and a strong sense of pride.
Well, your wife just hit my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law, and even snatched her bracelet. What are you going to do about that?
Lucas's voice suddenly turned calm, but to Wilson, he still sounded like a demon. Now, Lucas clearly had the upper hand, and it was up to him to settle the score. Wilson gritted his teeth and pulled a stunned Sharon over from the side. The sharp sound of a slap cut through the air, then another, leaving her already swollen face an even deeper red. "You fool! This is all your fault. Hurry up and apologize to Mr. Gray," he yelled. A harsh shove to the back of Sharon's knee sent her stumbling to the ground. Sharon was used to using Wilson's influence to throw her weight around. Sometimes she'd even get a little flirty with him. If he'd acted this way under normal circumstances, she would have cried and thrown a fit. But now, seeing that he was genuinely furious and looked like he wanted to kill her, she was terrified and rushed to apologize to Lucas. Begging for mercy, she pleaded,
I'm so sorry. Mr. Gray, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have been so rude to you or called people to get revenge. Please, forgive me.
Tears streamed down Sharon's puffy, swollen face. Her hair was a mess, and there she was, kneeling on the ground, crying and begging. She looked completely miserable. Lucas wasn't the type to throw his weight around or bully people. Besides, it wasn't like she'd actually gotten away with anything. So what exactly happened between you guys? How did this whole thing start? Lucas asked. Sharon immediately blushed, looking conflicted and not knowing what to say. Seeing this, Wilson nudged her harshly with his foot. He snapped. Mr. Gray asked you a question. Hurry up and tell him the truth. Sharon said hesitantly,
I saw your mother-in-law's bracelet in the bathroom just now, and I thought it was really pretty. I liked it a lot, so I tried to buy it from her, but she wouldn't sell it to me. She even called me some awful things and said that the bracelet wouldn't look good on me. I got so mad that I made her bump into me. My bracelet broke, so I told her she had to give me hers to make up for it. Then we, got into a fight.
Sharon's face was burning, partly from the force of the blows and partly from the shame of having to apologize. Meanwhile, after hearing Sharon's side of the story, James's expression darkened and he looked like he wanted to strike her. The Wilsons were a well-known family in Orange County with all kinds of expensive jewelry. And here was James's wife trying to scam another woman out of her bracelet. It was a massive embarrassment for the family. Right then, James felt his own face sting with shame. He was totally mortified. The weird stares from everyone around them just made him feel even more awkward.
You idiot! Don't I buy you enough bracelets and jewelry? I spend millions of dollars on you every single year. Are you really that shallow? You tried to steal something from someone just because you liked it. You're so embarrassing, James roared.
James was so furious he struck out at her again, making her cry out loud. Lucas frowned. That's enough, he said. Only then did James stop. He turned to Lucas and said, Mr. Gray, it's my fault she's out of control. I'm really sorry. I'll make sure she apologizes to your mother-in-law. Lucas gave him a cold look and led Charlotte away without saying another word. James immediately pulled a stunned Sharon up from the ground and hurried after them. The group of big guys were still rolling around and groaning on the floor, while the crowd of onlookers had already scattered. Meanwhile, Karen was a nervous wreck after running back to the private room by herself. Cheyenne asked anxiously,
Mom, what just happened? Where are Lucas and Charlotte? Why aren't they with you?
Karen tried to play it cool.
Oh, they just went to pay the check, she said. They told us to wait for them at the entrance.
Cheyenne wasn't buying it.
Mom, you barely ate anything. Why would they be paying the bill already? She asked.
Karen waved her hand dismissively.
I'm full. Let's just hurry up and go.
As she spoke, she tried to rush Cheyenne and Amelia toward the door. She kept glancing back, terrified those people might come bursting in. Cheyenne grew even more suspicious. She knew something was wrong with her mom's behavior.
No, Mom. Where did they really go? I'm going to call and ask, Cheyenne said, pulling her phone out of her purse to call Charlotte and Lucas. I told you, they're waiting for us outside. Why are you calling them? Karen cried, the color draining from her face as she lunged for Cheyenne's phone.
Suddenly, the door to the private room swung open, and Lucas and Charlotte walked in. When she saw they were both in one piece, without a scratch on them, Karen was about to ask what happened. But then she saw James Wilson and Sharon Hart walking in right behind them.
Oh my God,
Karen gasped. Karen started shaking, absolutely terrified. She jumped to her feet and ducked behind Cheyenne, sputtering.
Don't come any closer.
Then, Karen shot her hand out, pointing a finger straight at Lucas.
He's the one you want. This deadbeat is the one who caused all this. If you're here to settle a score, take it up with him. It has nothing to do with me.
Cheyenne wasn't a fool. She knew something was seriously wrong. She pulled Amelia in closer and demanded,
What is going on?
Charlotte looked at Karen, who was cowering behind Cheyenne and Amelia, her face filled with disappointment.
Cheyenne, Lucas, she said. I finally see what kind of person my mother really is. I'm so disappointed.
Cheyenne frowned, looking at Charlotte, confused. Suddenly, James shoved Sharon hard and yelled, "Hurry up and apologize to his mother-in-law!" At that moment, Sharon Hart's nose was swollen, her hair was a mess, and the corner of her mouth was cut and swollen. She looked like a complete wreck. Cheyenne watched, completely bewildered, while Karen was just as shocked and confused. Sharon slipped off the expensive-looking bracelet and held it out to Karen.
I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I caused all this trouble just because I wanted your bracelet. I'm truly sorry. Here, take it back. I hope you can forgive me.
Karen stared at the scene, stunned. She felt like she had to be dreaming. Was the wife of the great James Wilson actually apologizing to her and giving the bracelet back? Karen blinked a few times, looking from Sharon to the bracelet, completely unable to process what was happening. Cheyenne was also shocked, and her expression slowly turned serious. She was smart and had already sensed something was off with her mother's reaction earlier. She figured something big must have happened, and the arrival of these two strangers only confirmed her suspicions. Charlotte's words also stuck with her. Just as Cheyenne was about to ask what was going on, Karen snapped out of her daze. She snatched her bracelet from Sharon's hand and slid it back onto her own wrist. Even though she didn't know exactly what had happened, the fact was that Sharon had just bowed her head and apologized to her. Karen felt a smirk coming on, but she quickly shut her mouth, remembering who Sharon Hart and James Wilson were.
"All right, it's over now. You two can go," Lucas said to James and Sharon dismissively once the bracelet was returned. The moment James heard Lucas say he wasn't going to press the issue, he was flooded with relief. He quickly thanked Lucas before grabbing Sharon and dragging her away. The second they were out of the hotel, Sharon's face twisted into a vicious sneer. "I'll make those women pay for this," she snarled. A sharp slap cut through the air. The force of it left her completely stunned. "Honey, why did you hit me?" Sharon asked, her voice full of hurt. Wilson glared at her, his eyes burning with a terrifying, murderous rage. "Hit you? I wish I could kill you. You fool, you're a total liability. All you do is cause problems for me, day after day. If you weren't the mother of my child, I would have kicked you out long ago. Listen to me. This is the last time I'm putting up with this. If I find out you've caused trouble again, if you provoke another heavy hitter like that, I will kill you." Sharon shivered, terrified by his threat. She had thought he was just putting on a show for Lucas and would get his revenge later. But to her surprise, Wilson was genuinely terrified of Lucas, treating him like some powerful person he couldn't afford to cross. "Okay, honey, I know I was wrong. From now on, I promise I'll listen to you. I won't cause any more trouble," Sharon promised quickly. Actually, she wasn't a fool. Otherwise, she never would have married Wilson. Still, she really didn't understand. From her point of view, Lucas was just some loser. Even if he was good at martial arts, there was no way he could take on a whole group of guys by himself. She couldn't understand why Wilson was so afraid of him. After hearing Sharon's question, Wilson glared at her again. "Are you an idiot? If he was just some guy who could throw a punch, why would I be so cautious? Can't you see? He was holding back today, just like he did at the kindergarten. If he really wanted to, he could have killed us without breaking a sweat. How can we possibly afford to mess with someone that dangerous? Anyway, I've warned you. If you have a death wish, fine, but don't drag me down with you. Got it?" Wilson warned, his expression turning cold. Thinking about the sheer power behind Lucas's kick and how easy he made it look made Wilson's blood run cold. Besides, Wilson was worried about something else, something he didn't tell Sharon. Ever since Wilson and his crew were soundly defeated by Lucas and Jordan at the kindergarten and then failed to get revenge at the Brilliance Corporation the next day, Wilson had hired people to dig into Lucas's past. However, he'd come up with almost nothing. All they found was that Lucas was a recent graduate who'd worked as a driver for the Brilliance Corporation before he married Cheyenne. His background seemed perfectly ordinary, except for a 6-year gap where he'd completely disappeared. But nobody knew what he'd been doing during those years. Lucas was now very different from the person he was 6 years ago. The man who returned had terrifying fighting skills, the kind that even scared a guy like Wilson. It all meant one thing. Lucas was not the simple man he appeared to be. After Wilson and Sharon left, a strange tension settled over the private room. Nobody had an appetite anymore. After paying the bill, Lucas drove them back to the Carter residence. The ride home was quiet and tense. After her big meal, Amelia was getting sleepy, so she leaned against Cheyenne and drifted off. Charlotte kept her head down, quiet and lost in thought. Karen leaned back in her seat, glued to her phone and tapping away at a text. Every so often, she'd let out a little laugh and mutter words like "fat woman" and "apologize."
Cheyenne frowned but decided not to say anything just yet. When they got home, Lucas carried the sleeping Amelia upstairs. Cheyenne finally turned to Karen.
Mom, tell me the truth. What really happened at the restaurant? Why did James Wilson and his wife come to our table to give you back the bracelet and apologize?
Karen shrugged.
Oh, that woman wanted my bracelet.
But her husband put her in her place, and she had to give it back to me. Cheyenne didn't buy it for a second.
But when they first came over, you were blaming everything on Lucas and telling them to hold him responsible. What changed?
Karen snapped back, annoyed.
What is there to ask? Your good-for-nothing husband started it all by hitting that woman. Then she called her husband over, and he almost got me into serious trouble. If Mr. Wilson hadn't been so generous, who knows what would have happened to us? Mom, that's enough, Charlotte finally snapped, unable to listen to her mother's lies anymore.
Staring at Karen with red-rimmed eyes, Charlotte yelled, full of disappointment.
Mom, what did Lucas ever do to you? Why are you twisting everything around? Everything that happened today was your fault. Sharon Hart just wanted to buy your bracelet. You could have just said no. Why did you have to insult her and start a fight? When I saw you get slapped, I stepped in to help. But I can't believe you chickened out the second you found out who Sharon Hart was. It's one thing to be scared, but why did you try to make me take a slap for you? Did you even think about how I would feel? And another thing, Lucas was just trying to help us when he slapped that woman. How can you put all the blame on him? If it wasn't for Lucas, she probably would have scarred my face for life. And how can you say James Wilson let us off the hook because he's so generous? That's ridiculous. You ditched us and ran off. You didn't even see what happened, so how can you say that? There were so many of them. If it wasn't for Lucas, I probably wouldn't have made it back here at all. James Wilson would have. He would have destroyed me. How dare you twist the story and blame Lucas while calling James Wilson generous? You're just making things up. You've gone way too far.
Thinking about what just happened, Charlotte was furious and hurt. Tears streamed down her face. She felt wronged for herself and for Lucas.
Why is Mom doing this to us?
After listening to Charlotte, Cheyenne finally understood what had happened. She looked at Karen, her face a mask of disbelief.
Mom, you really tried to make Charlotte let someone else slap her? She's just a kid. And then you just left them there, ran back to the room, and told me we should leave? You were just going to abandon Charlotte and Lucas?
Cheyenne was heartbroken. She couldn't believe her own mother would do something like that. But she knew Charlotte would never lie to her about this.
Shut up! Now that you're both grown, you think you can lecture me? Karen snapped, putting her hands on her hips as her daughters questioned her. What do you two know? They're the Wilsons, one of the most powerful families in Orange County. We can't afford to mess with them. What was I supposed to do? You're mad that I pushed Charlotte out to take the slap, but she's young. She can handle it. I'm an old woman. You want me to get hit? You two are such ungrateful children. Karen scolded them, acting like she was completely in the right, even blaming Cheyenne and Charlotte for being bad daughters because they didn't offer to take the slaps for her. Charlotte was speechless. She gave a bitter, sarcastic laugh. Yeah, I'm your daughter, so I guess I deserve to be thrown to the wolves, right? Fine. I guess I'm just unlucky to have a mother like you. But you ran away. You have no idea what happened after that, so why are you lying to Cheyenne? Why did you say James Wilson was kind and generous? Do you have any idea what he really wanted? Karen scoffed. What could he have possibly wanted? It's not like he made an indecent proposal, did he? And if he did, you should have been smart about it. You're much prettier than that wife of his. You could have easily secured his favor. Charlotte couldn't believe Karen was actually disappointed that she hadn't accepted Wilson's indecent proposal. She was horrified that her own mother wanted her to become his mistress just to get ahead in life. Ha! I can't believe those disgusting words just came out of my own mother's mouth. What do you think I am? Some prize to be offered to any rich man who comes along? Mom, have you no shame at all? Charlotte screamed. Furious at being called out so harshly by her own daughter, Karen flew into a rage and slapped Charlotte hard across the face. You disrespectful girl! How dare you talk to your mother like that? The slap snapped Charlotte's head to the side, but she slowly turned back, glaring at Karen with pure fury, biting down hard on her lower lip. Still defiant, huh? You need another slap. Karen raised her hand again. Enough! Cheyenne grabbed Karen's wrist. She was so furious, her face was flushed, and she glared at Karen with disgust. Charlotte's right. You don't deserve to be a mother at all. Cheyenne was floored by what Karen had just said. She was completely disappointed in her mother.
Cheyenne coldly shook off Karen's hand and turned to take Charlotte's. Then she led her upstairs without a single glance back. Furious at her daughter's attitudes, Karen plopped down on the floor again, slapping her thighs and wailing.
Oh my God! I worked so hard to raise you two, and this is how you treat me. You're so ungrateful. I'm so unlucky to have daughters like you. God, what did I do to deserve this in a past life?
Karen bawled for a while, but no one came downstairs to comfort her. What was the point of putting on a one-woman show with no audience? Karen scrambled up from the floor, glaring at the top of the stairs and gritting her teeth.
It's all that good-for-nothing's fault. If it weren't for him, Charlotte and Cheyenne would never treat me like this. Lucas Gray, just you wait.
Cheyenne took Charlotte back to her room and stayed with her for a while.
Forget it,
she said, trying to comfort her.
That's just how Mom is. It's not the first time she's acted like this. Just try to ignore all the crazy things she says, or you'll just drive yourself crazy.
Charlotte nodded, tears welling in her bloodshot eyes.
Yeah, I know. I'd just like to be alone for a while. Can you go back to your room?
Cheyenne sighed, wiped her own eyes, and went back to her room. Inside, Lucas had already tucked Amelia into bed and was sitting quietly on the carpet, waiting for her.
Lucas, Charlotte told me everything that happened. Thank you for her. And I'm so sorry for how my mother acted,
Cheyenne said, looking at Lucas apologetically. Lucas smiled and shook his head. Don't be. They're your family, which makes them my family too. You don't have to apologize for them. Cheyenne was touched, but also felt a wave of guilt she couldn't explain.
Honestly, you have so much power and money. You could be living in a huge mansion where no one tells you what to do. You'd have a much better life than this.
Lucas cut her off, his voice gentle but firm. But you and Amelia aren't there. To me, home is wherever you two are. After crying in her room for what felt like forever, Charlotte left the house. her eyes all red and puffy. Upstairs, Lucas frowned and pulled out his phone to send a text. Charlotte wandered aimlessly down the street. Honestly, she had no idea where she was going. She just couldn't stand being in that house a moment longer. Her first thought was to call her best friend, Sophie, but when she remembered what her mother did, she couldn't bring herself to talk about it. As she walked, Charlotte spotted a place called the Cocktail Bar down the street and suddenly had a strong urge to drink. Maybe if I get drunk, I won't be in so much pain. Charlotte walked into the bar, ordered a whole bottle of martini, and found a corner table. She started drinking by herself, not realizing how much attention a beautiful woman alone was attracting. A smooth-looking guy, maybe in his 30s, holding a fancy cocktail, slid into the seat across from Charlotte. He asked, "Hey, beautiful, you here all alone?" Charlotte looked up at him, completely unimpressed by his whole act. Her eyes filled with annoyance as she snapped, "Get lost." The guy was a little taken aback, but he quickly flashed what he probably thought was a charming smile. "Don't be so cold. Since we're lucky enough to meet, why not have a drink together? Let me introduce myself. My name is Logan Hale. I own this bar." Charlotte was completely fed up. She snapped, "Do you not understand English? I told you to get lost." As she said it, she threw the drink from her glass right in his face. Wow, she's got some nerve. "Logan, you okay?" Right away, a few people from a nearby table jumped up and crowded around them. They were all Logan's friends, who had been sitting there having drinks. They were the ones who had dared him to go over and hit on Charlotte. They figured with Logan's good looks and charm, a beautiful girl like Charlotte would be all over him. They definitely didn't expect her to be bold enough to throw a drink in his face. Logan wiped the drink from his face and waved a hand, telling his friends to back off, all while keeping that smooth, polite smile. He chuckled. "Wow, beautiful. I just wanted to get to know you. Did you have to be so harsh?" Charlotte realized she'd been a little impulsive. After all, Logan had just come over to talk to her, which was pretty normal for a bar. She just overreacted because she was already upset. "I'm sorry," Charlotte said politely. "I'm in a really bad mood, and I shouldn't have taken it out on you." Logan laughed. "Well, I'm honored. I guess that means we're acquainted now," he teased. He turned and shouted to the bartender, "Hey, bring out that special bottle of red I've been saving." "Yes, sir," the bartender replied. In a moment, the bartender came over with an ice bucket holding a bottle of red wine. Charlotte frowned. She didn't want to have a drink with a stranger. "Sorry," she said. "That's nice of you, but I really have to get going." She stood up and grabbed her purse to leave, but Logan smoothly blocked her path. "Whoa, not so fast," he said. "Look, you splashed a drink in my face. Let me buy you a glass of wine and we'll call it even. How about it?" Logan poured 2 glasses of red wine and held one up to Charlotte. Charlotte instantly regretted coming here. Bars were full of all kinds of people, and now she was alone, dealing with Logan Hale, the owner, who had all his friends around. She figured she wasn't getting out of here tonight unless she drank this wine. Gritting her teeth, she looked at Logan. "So, if I drink this, I can leave?" "Absolutely. Just this one glass," Logan said with a smile. "Okay." Charlotte took the glass. "Again, sorry for before," she said to Logan. She raised the glass to her lips, about to drink it all.
when a hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. Charlotte was shocked. She spun around and found herself staring at a wide, muscular chest. Looking up, she saw a man so tall and muscular he looked like a tower standing over her. She gasped, and so did everyone else in the bar. Bruce Hale, who had appeared out of nowhere, was over 6.5 feet tall and gave off a terrifying vibe. He stood there like some huge, fierce animal that made you shiver just looking at him.
Don't drink that.
As everyone stared in disbelief, the muscular man let go of Charlotte's hand, his warning hanging in the air. Charlotte couldn't process what he just said, but Logan's face had already darkened, and he narrowed his eyes.
Who are you?
The big guy glanced at Logan and said casually,
You don't need to worry about who I am, but you shouldn't have spiked Miss Carter's wine.
What? Hearing this, it all clicked for Charlotte. She dropped the wine glass and it shattered on the floor. The deep red wine immediately soaked into the carpet. You spiked my drink! You're disgusting! You're vile! Charlotte yelled at Logan, trembling. Logan chuckled. Sweetheart, do you even know this guy? Are you just going to believe everything he says? Logan could clearly see the shock and confusion on Charlotte's face. Obviously, she didn't know the guy either. After Logan's question, Charlotte was definitely confused. One was a total stranger, and the other was someone she'd just met a minute ago. Not sure who to trust, she could only look back and forth between them, completely uncertain. Just then, the tall, well-built man spoke up. My name is Wade. Mr. Gray sent me to protect you. Mr. Gray? Is he talking about Lucas? Charlotte froze. The tall, muscular man was Wade, the same boxing expert Gordon Douglas had hired to take care of Lucas. But after seeing just how dangerous Lucas could be back at Heaven Media, Wade switched sides and offered to protect the people Lucas cared about. Lucas turned him down at first. He hadn't had a chance to check Wade's background or motives, so he wasn't about to send a stranger near his loved ones. But after doing some digging and watching him for a while, Lucas decided Wade was reliable enough to hire. So, when he saw Charlotte leave the house looking down earlier, he texted Wade and asked him to go protect her. Charlotte was relieved to hear that this big guy, Wade, was there to protect her. But she was still on high alert and wasn't ready to trust a stranger so easily. She asked nervously, "Who is this Mr. Gray you're talking about?" Wade smiled. "Mr. Lucas Gray. Miss Carter, if you don't believe me, you can call Mr. Gray and ask him yourself." Hearing Wade say that, Charlotte finally felt a wave of relief. She had known for a while that Lucas was no ordinary guy. She knew he was more than capable of sending a tall, built bodyguard to protect her on such short notice. Logan scowled as he listened to them talk. He'd finally found a woman he wanted, even gone to the trouble of spiking her drink, and now his plan was ruined just when he was about to get his way. He was furious. "Let's go," Charlotte said, glaring at Logan with disgust. Anyone who tries to drug people is a scumbag. He let out a derisive laugh. "You're not going anywhere after ruining my good mood." Logan dropped the whole charming gentleman act. He swaggered over to the couch and sprawled out on it. Right after he spoke, more than 10 tough-looking guys in security uniforms suddenly surrounded them. They clearly weren't just regular security guards.
They were a crew of well-trained fighters. Charlotte's heart started pounding. Even though she knew Lucas had sent Wade to protect her and that he must be a pro, he was still just one man against a whole group. Charlotte couldn't help but worry. But Wade didn't look scared at all. He just said to Charlotte calmly, "Miss Carter, just stand behind me and don't move."
Okay,
Charlotte nodded. Seeing how calm Wade was made her feel a little less anxious. Looking at Wade's calm expression, Logan smirked and snapped his fingers. Instantly, his goons lunged at Wade. "You've got a death wish," Wade shouted, swinging his heavy fists at them. The first man flew backward, crashing over tables and sending the other patrons screaming. He landed in a heap of shattered glass, crying out as the fight was knocked out of him. The remaining goons stared in horror. This guy was ruthless. But they were hired muscle, paid to fight. They couldn't believe they couldn't take down one man. The security guards swarmed him. A few of them grabbed liquor bottles and swung them at Wade. Wade just smirked. He was a king of underground boxing. How could a bunch of bar brawlers possibly take him down? Wade didn't use any fancy moves, just his fists. The men cried out in pain as they fell. In moments, all 10 or so of them were on the floor, and the bar was a complete wreck. With all the fighters down, there was no one left to stop them. Wade shot a furious glare at Logan, then led Charlotte out of the bar. Logan stared at the wreck of his bar, his men rolling on the floor and groaning in pain. He was filled with rage. Someone had just walked in and wrecked his place, his turf. There was no way Logan was going to let that slide. Logan roared, "Find out who that woman is, and who Lucas Gray is. I want answers in 3 hours." After finally escaping the bar with Wade, Charlotte let out a huge sigh of relief. She'd just gone to the bar to clear her head, feeling down. She never expected anything like this to happen. Thank God the man Lucas sent had saved her. Otherwise, she couldn't even imagine what would have happened. Charlotte was still shaking with fear, and she was filled with so many questions. For instance, she wondered how Lucas found someone so tall, muscular, and powerful to protect her. And she was dying to know what other secrets Lucas was hiding. Unfortunately, the big guy in front of her didn't seem like much of a talker. Plus, he was over 6 feet tall, built like a tank, and had this intimidating vibe. So Charlotte didn't dare ask him anything. Soon, Wade got Charlotte home safely. As Charlotte headed upstairs, she ran into Cheyenne, who looked like she wanted to talk.
Did you just go out drinking?
Cheyenne couldn't help but frown when she caught the smell of alcohol on Charlotte.
Yes,
Charlotte admitted with a nod. Just as Cheyenne's frown deepened and she opened her mouth to say something, Charlotte quickly cut her off, her expression serious.
Cheyenne, I know I messed up. I promise I will never go to a bar by myself again.
Cheyenne looked at her sister's earnest promise and could only shake her head and...
I'm going to hold you to that. Don't go to places like that anymore. You're a young woman. It's dangerous out there. I know.
Charlotte nodded eagerly. Before, she would have just brushed off Cheyenne's warnings about how dangerous bars could be. But after what happened tonight, she was ready to listen to her sister's advice and be more careful. After Charlotte went into her room, she hesitated for a moment before sending Lucas a text.
Thank you, Lucas.
When Lucas opened the text, Cheyenne happened to be right there and saw the sender's name pop up.
Did Charlotte just text you?
She asked. Lucas nodded. and for some reason, Cheyenne suddenly felt a strange knot in her stomach. Charlotte was in the room right next door. If she really wanted to tell Lucas something, she could have just walked over and said it to him. So why text him? "Charlotte thanked you? What for?" Cheyenne asked, trying to push down a weird feeling in her gut. Lucas didn't want to worry Cheyenne, so he left out the part about Charlotte nearly getting into serious trouble at the bar. Instead, he said calmly, "I'm not sure. She's probably just thanking me for what happened at the restaurant this afternoon."
Oh, well, in that case, I need to thank you properly too.
Cheyenne didn't give it another thought after hearing his explanation. Lucas really had helped Charlotte out a lot that afternoon. If he hadn't, her face might be swollen right now, or even worse, permanently scarred. Lucas smiled. "She's your sister, and we're family. You don't have to be so formal with me." When Cheyenne heard Lucas say the word family, her heart fluttered, and a sense of peace washed over her. Cheyenne lowered her head, unsure of what to say, as the tips of her ears turned red. Seeing the shy look on Cheyenne's beautiful face, Lucas felt his own heart skip a beat. Suddenly, they both fell silent, just sitting quietly in the room. The atmosphere was peaceful and warm. The next morning, when Lucas, Cheyenne, and Amelia came downstairs, they found Karen at the dining table, wolfing down a sandwich. "Good morning, Mom."
Good morning, Grandma.
They both greeted Karen. When they came downstairs, Karen completely ignored their greetings. She stayed silent, acting like she didn't even see them. Cheyenne frowned. She took Amelia into the kitchen to get some breakfast, but all she found was an empty, unwashed pan.
Mom, where's breakfast?
Cheyenne called out from the kitchen.
There isn't any for you. If you want breakfast, make it yourself. I'm not your maid,
Karen snapped, finishing the last bite of her sandwich. She tossed her empty plate onto the table, where it landed with a loud clang. Amelia was totally shocked, and Cheyenne was furious. They used to have a housekeeper who cooked for them, but Karen didn't want to pay her, so she was always picking on the woman and bossing her around. Eventually, the housekeeper just quit. Then Karen offered to take over the cooking herself in exchange for a few $1,000s from her daughters every month. But now, Karen was backing out, acting like Cheyenne and the others were taking advantage of her. Just as Charlotte came downstairs, she heard what her mother said. She was livid when she realized Karen had made breakfast for herself, but not for them.
Mom, Cheyenne and I have to get to work. We don't have time to make breakfast in the morning. When we wanted to hire someone, you're the one who said we should just give you the money and you'd cook for us. What's this all about now? Charlotte said, completely fed up. I have every right to your money. I raised you two, and now that you're working and earning, shouldn't you support your own mother? And as for your food, please, weren't you all so high and mighty yesterday? Why should I cook for you and feed you just so you can treat me like crap? Karen shot back, her eyes wide with rage. At the end of the day, she just wanted to be the one in charge in this family and make it clear that anyone who crossed her wouldn't get a hot meal. Cheyenne and Charlotte were both furious and frustrated. Karen was obviously the one who had crossed the line yesterday, but now she was accusing them of being ungrateful. Thinking about what happened yesterday, Charlotte suddenly blew up. What kind of a mother are you? Ever since we were kids, all you ever did was yell at us and threaten us. Did you ever actually take care of us? When Cheyenne and I were little, you were out every single day playing cards with your friends. You'd leave in the morning and never come home. Cheyenne and I were left home alone all the time, hungry and with no one to look after us.
If it wasn't for Grandma, back when she was still alive, who would bring us food when she came to visit? We would have starved to death. Later on, Cheyenne had to learn how to cook when she was only 7 or 8 years old, because if she didn't, we would have starved. And you saw Cheyenne burn her hands trying to cook and just ignored it. In fact, you made her do all the cooking and housework from then on. You only hired a housekeeper after she started working and didn't have time anymore. How many times have you actually cooked for us in all these years?
We said we wanted to hire help, but you said it was a waste of money and that we should just give it to you. But now you're using meals to threaten us? On top of that, you treat us with a terrible attitude all the time. If that's how it's going to be, then you don't have to worry about getting any more money from us in the future. After her angry outburst, Charlotte grabbed her purse and stormed out. Karen's face went from red to pale as she listened to Charlotte lay out her past. But when she heard Charlotte say she wouldn't be giving her any more money, she started to panic. Charlotte, I was wrong. I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I promise I'll cook for you every day. But Charlotte didn't even turn around. She walked out without a moment's hesitation. Cheyenne watched with a cold expression, completely disappointed in her mother. Let's go too. After saying that, Cheyenne took Amelia's hand and walked toward the door with Lucas. Karen was getting anxious again. If Cheyenne left and stopped giving her money, what would she do? Cheyenne, you've always been so good to me. Are you really going to throw a fit too? Karen asked, trying to play the sympathy card. Cheyenne just looked at her expression filled with disappointment. Mom, I'm not the one throwing a fit here. You are. I'm just exhausted. We're leaving. With that, they left, completely ignoring Karen's attempts to make them stay. Karen was left standing alone in the doorway, staring blankly out at the empty yard. Karen couldn't care less that she had disappointed her daughters. All she worried about was the cash flow from them drying up. The thought of it made her anxious, frustrated, and even a little regretful. The truth was, Karen had enough money to get by, but she loved saving her own money while hitting up her daughters for cash to cover her expenses. That was the only way she felt secure. Karen stood at the door for a long time, lost in thought. Meanwhile, Cheyenne, Lucas, and Amelia were enjoying a great breakfast at a local cafe. After eating, Lucas first dropped Amelia off at kindergarten before driving Cheyenne to the Brilliance Corporation. I've got some things to take care of, but I'll pick you up after work tonight, Lucas said gently from the driver's seat. You know, you really don't have to drive me to and from work every day. If you're busy, I can get back on my own. Cheyenne felt bad for making him go out of his way. She knew Lucas owned Orion Global and kept a low profile, so she figured he must be swamped all the time. But he always made time to drive her to and from work, which made her feel touched, but also guilty for taking up so much of his time. Lucas smiled. It's no trouble. I'm not that busy. Honestly, I like being able to drive you to and from work every day. You should get going. Only after watching Cheyenne walk into the company building did Lucas drive away. Even after she got to her office, Cheyenne could still feel her face burning. After getting through some of her daily tasks, her new assistant, the one she had recommended, knocked on the door. Miss Carter, there's someone downstairs to see you. He says he has an appointment with you today. Cheyenne was surprised. She thought for a moment, but couldn't remember having any appointments. She couldn't help but frown. Did he say what company he's from? What's his name? No, he just said he was an old friend and that you'd know him when you saw him, the assistant said nervously. Normally, when someone showed up without giving a name, the assistant would just turn them away. But the assistant was new and didn't know her well enough yet. He didn't want to risk upsetting her if the guy really was an old friend, so he decided to check with her first. An old friend? Cheyenne was confused. She didn't really have that many close friends, especially since most of them had disappeared when she'd hit rock bottom over the last 6 years. So, Cheyenne couldn't figure out who this old friend could be. But instead of playing a guessing game, she decided to just see for herself. Fine, send him in, Cheyenne said. A moment later, her assistant led a young man in a sharp, perfectly tailored suit into her office. When Cheyenne recognized his face, she frowned, and her expression soured. The young man gave Cheyenne a smooth smile. Miss Carter, it's a pleasure to see you again. Cheyenne raised her eyebrows and scoffed. Since when are we old friends? I don't even know your name. The man with the smile was none other than Aston Brooke, the same guy she'd met twice before, the one Scarlett Wright had been so eager to show off. He had the look of a polished, well-mannered rich guy, but just yesterday, he'd slapped Scarlett right in front of everyone and shoved her to the ground. No matter how powerful his family was, Cheyenne had zero respect for men who hit their girlfriends. Besides, even though the man in front of her looked calm and refined, there was something unsettling in his eyes. Cheyenne's vibe was definitely cold, but Aston kept on smiling. Miss Carter, you're being so formal. After all, we've met a few times, he said. Let me properly introduce myself. I'm Aston Brooke from Los Angeles. I'm here today because I'm very interested in speaking with you. Miss Carter, are you interested in a partnership with the Brookes? Just based on how he was acting now, you'd think Aston was a total gentleman. He wasn't pushy, just well-spoken, the kind of guy who makes a good first impression. But Cheyenne wasn't buying it. Even so, as the general manager of the Brilliance Corporation, she couldn't just turn him away based on her gut feeling, not when he was talking about a partnership. She asked patiently, "A partnership? I'm listening. Tell me more." A proud look came into Aston's eyes. The Brookes might not be local to Orange County, but we're one of the most powerful families in Los Angeles, and we have our hands in a lot of different businesses. The Solar Corporation in particular has seen huge growth these past few years. We're looking to expand our market and bring some of our operations to Orange County. So we're looking for a local company on our level to partner with. He continued, "From what I've seen lately, I think your company, while not exactly top tier right now, has a ton of potential. Miss Carter, as long as you're willing to work with us, I guarantee that with the support of the Solar Corporation, the Brilliance Corporation will get a lot stronger. I mean, at least much better than you are now." Aston smiled, looking proud and smug, with an air of superiority. He was acting like the Brilliance Corporation was getting some massive favor just by being considered, like they'd be nothing without the Solar Corporation. Even the top-tier families in Orange County wouldn't dare act this arrogant at the Brilliance Corporation. Cheyenne looked at Aston with interest. "You must be from out of town. It's clear you don't really know what's going on with the Brilliance Corporation." Aston was stunned. He thought that after he mentioned his family's name and proposed a deal with the Solar Corporation, Cheyenne would be overjoyed to work with him. But she didn't seem happy at all. In fact,
Her words gave him a bad feeling. "Oh, really?" he said, the smile on his face starting to fade. "Then please, Miss Carter, enlighten me."